Can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town.
Hey everyone, I've already made the intro to this video and you'll see that in just a little bit, but I failed to say something right off at the start, and I did say it later on in the video, but I want to start here. I'm going to be sharing a lot of medical things in this video, and I wanted to share first and foremost that I am not a doctor. I am not giving medical advice. I am, other than to see your physician and to see your medical doctor, but I am sharing my experience. And so I just wanted to be sure to get that out there from the get-go, that I am not giving medical advice. I am just sharing my experience and what happened with me. Also, this is a very vulnerable video for me to make. There is lots of TMI in here, and you guys asked for this and asked me to share my symptoms, how I knew this was happening to me, and I'm doing that. And so please, please, please be kind in the comments. I am it's embarrassing. It's super vulnerable for me. So anyway, on with the video, and thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, this is not usually the topic of my channel. It's usually cooking and day in the life of, grocery hauls, all that great stuff. So thank you for joining us. But if you're new here, I would love for you to hit subscribe and just join our family. It is a wonderful YouTube family. The Farm and Pastor's Wife family is just an amazing group of people. So, all right, on with the video. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Farm and Pastor's Wife. I'm so glad you're here. And welcome to what is probably the most vulnerable video I have ever made. It is probably the most TMI video I have ever made. But after the responses I received from you all after my prolapse surgery, a lot of the questions were, how did I know I had a prolapse? How did I know I needed surgery, and so forth? So that's what I just decided, hey, if it helps one person, that is worth it all. So let me just first say, men, this video is probably not for you. There's no cooking on this video, so it is probably not for you. But if you want to hang around, that's fine. Just know we're going to be talking about some female sensitive things. And so yeah, so we'll probably talk about some TMI stuff. But and hey, listen, if there's any ugly comments, y'all stick up for me. No, I'm just kidding. Don't engage with people who speak out of ignorance and hate. Don't engage with them. Just pray for them. They need Jesus, and I'll try to delete comments as quickly as they come in. So with that being said, let me first tell you what kind of prolapses I had, and then we need to back up into my medical history just a little bit. I had a cystocele, which is a bladder prolapse, which is probably the most common. I had a rectocele, which is a rectum prolapse, and an intracele, which is your intestines. So those were the three things that I had prolapsed. And so before we get into how I knew, let's back up to 2010, which is when I had another prolapse. I had a uterine prolapse in 2010. And I began to hemorrhage. We were on a cruise, of all places and things to be doing when this happens, but we were on a cruise and I began to hemorrhage severely. I was able to finish the cruise, got to see the doctor as soon as I got home, and he said, honey, you're gonna have an emergency hysterectomy on Monday, get ready. And it wasn't emergency like it had to be done right then, but that was probably seen, I don't know what day I was seen, but I was probably seen on a Friday and surgery was Monday. So that began everything. So in 2010, I had a partial hysterectomy, and life was bliss after that for many years up until this year. Of course, that was absolutely wonderful. No side effects from that. The hysterectomy was done vaginally. I didn't have any incisions. It was wonderful. The only problem I had was getting sick from the anesthesia, which was very common with me up until 2020. When I had my gallbladder, when I had my hysterectomy, I get very sick from anesthesia. But in 2020, they fixed something with me. And so let's move up to 2020. In 2020, they found a mass in my colon. And I had to have part of my colon removed. Like I said, that surgery went great as well, much better than ever expected. I did great from that. But I will say that with your bowel system and bowel movements and so forth, things changed a bit after I had that surgery. I didn't have to have a bag or anything, but consistency changed, frequency changed. There was a little bit of changes that came from that surgery in 2020. Now, let's jump to this year, to where I realized I had some things fallen into areas that they did not belong. So bowel changes were my first real symptom. And I still did not know what was happening at that point. I just chalked it up to my colon surgery, that things had still kind of changed a little bit. And I found that when I would go to the bathroom, I would have to change my position on the toilet to be able to have a bowel movement. I would have to kind of lean back or whatever. I had to finagle and move and do some things to be able to have a normal bowel movement. And so I told y'all this was sensitive and embarrassing and so forth, so just hang in there. But I just chalked it up to my colon surgery and that things were still changing. Hey, if y'all haven't stopped and got y'all a cup of coffee or a tea or a Pepsi or something, you might want to. This, you know, if I stop and think about it, it means, if I stop and hesitate, it means, do I want to say that? I'm thinking it through. Do I want to say that? But, so that was my first, symptom. Now, let me pause right here because I should have said this at the beginning. First and foremost, I am not a doctor. You need to check with your doctor. In fact, I'm probably going to go back in and give this at the beginning as well. But this, I am just telling you my experience. Everybody is different. Everybody's body is different. People have different symptoms, different situations. So let me just say, I am only sharing with you my experience. You need to consult a doctor. You need to see a gynecologist. You need to see a urogynecologist. You need to see a doctor. I'm just sharing with you what happened with me. So with that being said, I think a lot of women with the cystocele, the bladder prolapse, have maybe some leakage. I never experienced that at all. I have never experienced that even after having children, even being pregnant. I never, ever, ever, thank the Lord, experienced any of that. There may have been some stream flow changes, like it may not have been quite as, the stream may not have been quite as forceful, or I don't know. I did not really notice any urinary symptoms at all. No UTIs. Someone mentioned in the comments that they knew because they had several UTIs. I never had a UTI. It was, thank the Lord, I never had any urinary symptoms. So at this point, I still do not know I have this severity of prolapse. The next symptom is I probably began to feel like a fullness in my vaginal area, like something just wasn't. It didn't feel normal. And y'all, I lead a busy life. I don't do my self exams, like my breast exams, like I should. And I am, since this has all happened, I am going to start doing those things. And so I still didn't have a clue that anything was wrong, abnormal. Sexual activity was normal. It was, everything was, I would say that I didn't really notice anything other than maybe a little heaviness in that area. And until the prolapse began to protrude and became visible. And that is when I became alarmed. I was like, what is that? You know, and my first initial thought, because I'd had a mass in my colon, was, I have a mass, I have a tumor, there's something wrong. And I wasn't even sure what was protruding until I asked the doctor. And it wasn't any of the three things that had prolapsed that I was actually visibly seeing, but they had fallen behind the vaginal wall and had pushed out the vaginal wall. And that's what I was seeing. And that is what was protruding. So that is when I said, I got to get to a doctor. And I have not had normal female medical care in a long time. So I had to find a doctor, and went, and she said, you have a pretty severe prolapse, a triple prolapse. And that, when you hear that you have intestines in your rectum that is prolapsed, and it is very unnerving, unsettling, and embarrassing. It was kind of gross to me, although I didn't realize that that's not what was protruding. But it was embarrassing. I think I felt more embarrassed than anything, and of course nobody knew except me and Bryant. But it was unsettling. And she says, now they have several different things that she said they could try. One thing was, it was kind of like a laser, or I don't know what it was, but it wasn't covered by insurance, so that was not an option. The pessary, which is a silicone device that kind of goes in your vagina to hold everything back and hold everything where it goes. And that was the first route I went. They fit you for this, and they try different ones, and that was the most miserable, the most humiliating, that was awful. That to me was worse than anything. And she did send me home with one, but it did not work. It hurt. It was just, it was not something I was wanting to do and go. And she goes, yours is pretty severe. This is only temporary anyway. This will not fix it. And she says, with your age, you're young enough, you need to have it fixed. It's a once and done, hopefully. I'm sure there are cases that have to be redone. In fact, I've read some of the comments that had to be redone, but I think the surgery has come so far that it's usually, in most cases, if people follow what they're supposed to do, is kind of a once and done surgery. Now, there are exceptions to that, I do know. I was not, she says, this doctor I'm going to send you to, she is the best. And she was a urogynecologist. I don't know the actual big long word, but urologist / gynecologist. And she says she's the best. She's wonderful. So, but it was going to be months before I got in to see her because she was booked out. And so I finally got in to see her, and she scheduled my surgery. She says, you need surgery. You need surgery. And she was wonderful. She was very thorough, explained everything to me. She is the one that explained to me that what I was seeing protruding was the actual vaginal wall and not my intestines. And so she was very kind, put me at ease. And she says, your recovery is going to be quick. She said, you'll be fine. And so we scheduled it like the next week. Well, I got to reading the paperwork and saw that I would have possible bleeding, that I couldn't get into water, and I knew I had our vacation coming up. And this was a big vacation that we had planned for over a year, and I just called and said, I need to reschedule my surgery because I don't want anything to interfere with our vacation. Now, was that wise? I think it was. I still think I made the right decision. Just because I realize how easy I tire now since the surgery. And I think that's just mainly from the anesthesia, not the surgery itself. But I do think it was probably the right decision. And but I will say, let me back up to symptoms. When I said things would protrude, it would be usually after I was up and around and doing a lot of work, maybe a lot of heavy lifting. Usually of a morning, things would be fine and normal. And it would be at the end of the day that things would not be normal and not feel right and would be protruding. So I will say that at Disney, because you're walking a lot, you're walking fast a lot, and you are going to places, you're riding rides, you're doing things that I did by the end of the day. Oh yeah, I knew something was not right down there. And and she told me originally at my visit, she said, you'll feel like a new person walking around Disney. And she goes, because you won't have that heaviness, you won't have that feeling. And I think she would have been spot on right. But I didn't want to take any chances with our vacation because it was one that my family had saved up for a long time. The kids were looking forward to, and I was not going to let a surgery. And I knew what I was capable of before surgery. I didn't know what I would be capable of after. I wasn't sure. So I still think I made the right decision. But then we've come to my surgery. And what they did was she put, there's 5 puncture wounds in my abdomen. And it was robotic. They basically put everything back where it was supposed to go, and then took a mesh and secured it and all of those organs and all those things, secured it to my sacrum. And so yeah, before surgery, they did come in and one of the doctors came in and said, we see you've had a partial hysterectomy. If by chance there's any fallopian tubes or any residual parts of your fallopian tubes, we'll probably remove them while we're in there. And I was like, okay. And yesterday I got a report on the portal, and it appears that they possibly removed the ovaries while they were in there. And so if I haven't already gone full-blown menopause as of yet, which I feel like I may have, very mildly may have, but if I haven't yet, I am fixing to. I have a feeling. And So y'all know I stay cold all the time, so I welcome a little bit of that warmth. I just don't want it to happen at night to interrupt my sleep, and I hear that's usually when it happens the most. And the few times I have had it, it was at night. So anyway, so I hope this helps you somewhat. Remember, everybody is different. Some people I read in the comments had urinary symptoms. I did not. Some people may not have anything protruding as I did that is visible. I mean, like I could look and see, and that was what was like, oh, something is definitely wrong. Like when I had the bowel changes and had to, there's actually a word for when you have to change positions because of a prolapse to have a bowel movement. It's called splinting. I did not realize that, I mean, it even had a term, but it's called splinting. When I went through that, I had no idea. I just chalked it up to my colon surgery. And so it wasn't until it became severe enough for me to actually visibly see something that I even knew anything was wrong. So, see, and had I been having regular female care, I would have known that. And I'm a nurse, so I know you're supposed to go to the doctor. I know those things, but you know, things just like fall between the cracks, especially when you're, there was no pun intended there, but your care sometimes takes a backseat when you lead a busy life. And let me tell you, my health, remember back in 2018, I had an artery dissect that I was airlifted with. So that became my major health concern. It wasn't regular pap smears and stuff like that. My actual life was on the line. And so I should have kept up with regular care, and I would go have my normal just physicals, annual physicals, but yeah, I kind of let some things slide that I should not have. And so yeah, anyway, this has been embarrassing, very embarrassing and very TMI, I know, but I do hope it helps. This is so common. Like, I was so alarmed when it happened, or when I realized it. I was just like, well, first I told you, I thought I had a tumor. I thought it was a growth of some sort. And, but it is so very common. And, the surgery was absolutely a breeze. I have had an absolutely great experience. I've had no problems after surgery. The only problem I had is that a little air got trapped during surgery and it got under my shoulder blades, and that was a little uncomfortable and painful. But and then of course being intubated, your throat gets a little sore, and anesthesia in general just kind of tires you out, and it takes you a little while to recover from that. And that's why I do what I feel like doing, and then I rest. So please go to your doctor, see your doctor, have your regular exams just like you're supposed to. Something I know, something I preach to everybody else, but just didn't follow. And I may have known it ahead of time. Would it have changed the outcome? I don't know. But I may not have been quite as alarmed. I might have known what was happening and so forth. So, and remember, there for a while, I had a very, very, very physical job here on the farm. We working, there was some heavy lifting that probably did not help things. And of course, I haven't been doing that in the last few years, but leading up to it, I may have caused, some issues. So anyway, there you have it. I can't wait to see the comments on this one. But I told you, I would tell you, I would not hold back. And I would make you aware of what my symptoms were, just in case it helps you. But remember, see your doctor. See your doctor. And thank you guys for tolerating this video. And I hope it has helped in some way. I hope it has informed you in some way. But one more time, I'm going to preach it. See a doctor. I am not a doctor. I am just telling you what happened with me. But I can advise you to see your doctor and follow their advice. So, all right, I'm going to go. I've got some cleaning to do while I still have a little bit of energy. Bryant and Daniel are going to be getting out my Christmas decorations. So probably at some point on one of these videos, you're going to see some Christmas stuff happening. I don't know when, but anyway. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us. That was a big slurp. I will see you guys on the next one. Remember, the grease is hot enough. I don't even know why I'm saying that on this video. You can fry anything. Bye, y'all.